Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Slumber Party podcast. I am your host, Amanda Jewson. I like sleep. Although, if you are watching this on YouTube, guys, I'm looking a bit tired. I don't know why. Is it the morning? Don't judge me. Actually, I decided today to not wear a ton of makeup, and basically, it's showing. That's okay. I'm not vain. Okay, so today I was so super interested in having YJ. YJ, that's how you go, right? YJ? Yeah.
Yeah.
YJ on the podcast because this is a question that I get all the time. All the time. And, it might be a repeat of some of the advice I've given in the 4-month regression podcast, but I think it's worth everybody listening, and maybe to that episode again, but also to some of the common things that can happen that can stall your progress when it does come to helping your baby learn how to sleep. So thank you, YJ, for emailing me. I'm super excited to have you on.
Anytime.
This podcast only works if I have someone to talk to. I mean, the first season was just me talking by myself, but I get bored of myself quite easily. Okay, so tell me, what is going on?
Okay, so it kind of goes back. So Noah is my son, and he is on the verge of turning 7 months on the 28th. He will turn 7 months, but he was 10 days late. So I always tend to account for that. And so I feel like he is already 7 months. Anyway, besides the point. So when he was like 3.5 months, his sleep just completely turned. And we were kind of like, we were in the throes of it all, but didn't know what to do. So we just kind of like, okay, let's roll with it. And kind of went on for a few months or couple months. And until one point I was like, that's it. Like, I'm done with this. And so I was like, I'm just going to teach him how to sleep on his own because it's so important. And of course, your podcast helped me through it. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I let him cry, and I walked out to the doctor. Was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm letting him like fall asleep on his own. He was like, we didn't talk about it. I was like, I'm doing it.
You probably, in hindsight, should have had a chat. Just,
Yep.
There is no judgment in this statement, but I want everybody listening to have, talk to your partner and have a plan in front of you. Even if your plan is you guys write down an agreement between the both of you. This is what we're going to do when baby cries. This is how we're going to check and console, when we're going to do it. We're going to sign our names to this paper. So we are honest about it. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Right. And just preface that we did talk about sleep training for months leading up to it. It's not like out of the blue. It was like I just pulled it out of thin air and just threw it at his face. So, but it may have seemed like that in the moment. Anywho, so 3-4 days was tough, but it did get easier. And eventually he just kind of learned, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, I couldn't even speak about it because I was so scared to like jinx it or anything. I just like zip my mouth.
The first sleep of baby sleep is never to talk about the baby sleeping. It doesn't matter who you are or what age your kids are. The moment someone says, how's your kid sleeping? And you say, great, that night will be the worst night. And I will say still, I was actually thinking on the first day of school, sorry, I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, but just to make you feel better. On the first day of school, my kids are always up super early. And the first day of school, they were up, they slept in 45 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Maybe this is my life now. And I said to my husband, I was like, maybe they're just sleeping. No, they've been up even earlier now. Even early. They're like, no, that's what we do. So, okay, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. It's true. So I didn't speak about it. Anyway, about 6 days, from the date we started sleep training, we went to Quebec to my husband's side. Family has a country house there. So we went there, and I was super nervous. I was like going to cancel it on the 11th hour. But anyway, we went, and because, everywhere says, don't sleep train if you're going to go somewhere. And I remember one of your podcasts also said, give it time before you go and travel. Anyway, we did it.
You did. That's okay.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, it was okay. We lived, and that's fine. And we came home, and it seemed okay. And then, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, he would start waking up and spurts like in the middle of the night, and I know he's not hungry.
Right.
Like I know it's not because he needs calories or anything like that, and I know it's not because he pooed himself or anything. I don't know what it is, and it happens some nights and other nights doesn't. So like I have this in my head that like some onesies he sleeps better and the others don't. But like that's so crazy. Anything to make sure that like I mirror what happened the night before.
100%.
So yeah. So just kind of like in this mix of like some nights he does super well and some nights not so well. And I don't understand, like everything to the T is the same every night. Bedtime routine, the same.
Okay. Okay, so I love this. There's a great meme. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a group of scientists like poring over beakers with like very furrowed brows, and everyone is like doing a science experiment. And it was like, the caption was like, you and your husband, the first night your baby sleeps through the night. And it's like, that is so perfect.
Yeah.
I remember the first night my daughter fell asleep, I was like, okay, well, let's write everything that we did down, and that's what we do for the rest of our lives. And there's no deterring from that whatsoever. And this is what I loved about your email, is because you were like, what magic concoction, what series of steps did I do on that one night for it to happen? And this is a really common question. And I will have clients who will be like, they'll call me, we have a call together, and they're like desperate, and they're like, oh my God, I'm ready. Here we go. This is it. And then they were like, you know what? He slept okay last night. I think we're going to pause. I'm like, all right, great. And then 2 days later, they're like, no, this is it. We are doing it. And then 2 days later, they're like, no, you know what? We got it now. We got it. And then you don't realize, but from what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm not hearing this right, YJ, is that you have been doing this for essentially 3.5 months now. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, but it feels like just like every time you get a tickle of a great night, you're like, we've got it. We've got it. We've got it. And then so let me explain a little bit what's happening. And then I'm going to ask you some questions about everything to try to figure out what's happening. So this happens a lot because babies get overtired. And let's say out of 7 days, 5 of those days, your baby is getting up once or twice. There's some shenanigans going on. Because their circadian matches ours, they're going to feel as tired as you and I do the next day. So they feel that tired. And then we do that for 5 days. Eventually, it's going to catch up with them. And then on the 5th day, they're like, yep, I'm going to sleep through. You might get a 6th day, and you're like, yeah, we've got it. And then it'll be like, no, I was lying. I'm back to what I did because I slept through the night. I feel really rested. I'm back at stage 1. Let's do this. And then you're going to essentially repeat that cycle. The same goes for things like, this is kind of on topic, but I want to talk about how it manifests in the work. But I will have clients who tell me, let's say your guy, he sleeps for like 3.5 to 4 hours during the daytime, but his nights he's up like 8 times. Once we get the night sorted, the naps will definitely shift from being that 3.5, 4 hours, because we have to take the sleep from somewhere. And parents will be like, oh, I wanted the 3.5, 4 hour nap, and I want the 12-hour nights. Make that happen. That's not always possible. Babies only have so much sleep in them. So there's only so much to give. And every baby, that number of sleep is going to be a little bit different. Okay. So that's number 1. Let's talk about how this baby falls asleep. So talk to me about your daytime. Talk to me about your nighttime. I want you to tell me, okay, let's answer this question. Is there anything during the day or night where if you stop doing it before sleep, your baby would cry?
So I've pondered about this question a lot to myself when I was listening to your podcast, your previous podcast, because I was talking about sleep crutches and all that stuff. But here's the thing. So I can't even get into naps. Naps are a mess.
Okay, there we go. That's it.
Nope.
That's going to be your thing. But this is good. I'm glad that you we jumped right in. It won't even be hard. And I want to tell everybody when I have these calls, I don't we did not have a pre-call. We did not discuss what's happening. I don't know anything other than what the person has submitted in their application because I like it to be fresh. I don't like to pre-plan anything. But this is like 9 out of 10 times. There's always something. There's always something.
Well, yeah. Okay, so our naps are, but you know how your thing is like, if it's not a problem to you, it's not a problem to anybody. Absolutely. So I like firmly embedded that into my cranium. Yeah. And so our naps are essentially, he takes about 2 naps now. He just all of a sudden decided 2 naps is enough. And so to build up his sleep pressure, he would, in the morning, usually he wakes around 7 o'clock. Now it's a little bit later, but anyway, 7 o'clock. And we would try to push it to like a 3-hour wake window. And then around like 10:30, he will take his first nap. He doesn't do it solo. We take him into our bed and basically like hug him and cradle him on the bed until he falls asleep. And then we just stay there.
Okay.
For like an hour and a half. And so that repeats for the afternoon naps as well. But we don't hold him and rock him, none of that. Just kind of lie next to him and just kind of hold him, hug him, maybe, I'm not vertically, and then sing to him, and then until he falls asleep. And then nighttime, every 3 days he takes a bath, and then if not, we do a massage, and then change his diaper, I get into his onesie, and then I feed him, and then I burp him, and then I put him in his crib. And that's his nighttime. So it's, yeah.
Okay. So you are right in that a problem is not a problem for me unless it's a problem for you. I would argue. Yeah. So let me explain for your guy what he's thinking. So because up to a certain age, you are going to get away with that. So that means in terms of like nap training, people are like, meh, whatever, naps and nights are different. Let me tell you why they're different, and then let me tell you why they're the same. So they're different because the body produces a whole slew of different hormones. During the day, we have cortisol and adrenaline. It literally keeps us upright. We have sun exposure. We have light exposure. These are all things that tell a human body to stay awake, okay? During the nighttime, we have melatonin, and it's literally like your body releases a sleeping pill. Okay. Your body is just like, look, we're going to do you a solid. We're going to give you this sleeping pill. We're going to make sleep nice and easy. It's going to be easier for you. So in those ways, it's different. But in terms of the behaviors, they have to be the same. Now, between the ages of 4 to I say 6. I'm going to cut it off at 6 months. You may be able to get away with having different behaviors for the day than you do for the night. Because during the day, it's like at that developmental stage, your baby is like, man, I don't care. I don't really remember. But as your baby gets more alert, aware, they become a little person, they start to develop preferences. Like they're little people. We totally underestimate them. I put myself in this category until I started doing this work. And I'm like, damn, babies are so friggin' smart, but they are. Yeah. And sometimes I struggle with the fact that I know that there are other experts or consultants who will be like, no, it doesn't matter. You can do naps any way you can get them. And then you worry about the night. What that's going to mean is that your baby will cry until you do something. So it's, that's for me, when I go back to like a problem's not a problem for me unless it's a problem for you. If you're cool with him getting up and then you kind of doing whatever you need to do to get him back to bed, that's fine. I just can't eliminate that problem that the behaviors are different. So because,
Yeah.
and this is another thing too, is that people won't really understand how their bodies become a sleep association. When people think about a sleep association, they think of a bottle, a boob, a pacifier, or rocking. But a sleep association is literally anything. And so I'm not even being, you know, specific because I can't be, but it's literally anything your baby needs in order for you to
Yeah.
fall asleep. So that is like co-sleeping. And I say co-sleeping, if you want to co-sleep and you're enjoying it, go ahead. But you can't, like, some people will be like, oh, is there any way I could stop co-sleeping during the day and continue at night? It's like, no, your baby doesn't
Right.
understand why they can do things at different times. And so they'll just cry. And then in it, like, so then the part two of that, and again, there's no judgment here. I only know this because this is what my job is. um
Yeah.
the part two is like, you're probably at this point, when he wakes up in the middle of the night, you're probably doing whatever you need to do to get that baby to go back to bed again, right? Whether that's rocking, feeding, co-sleeping a little bit for an hour. Yeah, I would. I have.
Right.
So then we have like a twofold thing happening. Number one,
Right.
our nights and days are different. Number two, when baby does cry at night because he's waiting for the day thing, you're doing something to help baby go back to bed.
Right.
So that's,
Right.
when, I just had this call a couple of days ago where a client said they wanted to fix their naps, but they were helping to sleep at night. And then they were like, oh, do you have just a nap package? This is just a nap issue. And I was like, no, 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 no. It's not just a nap issue. And I think that people think
Yeah.
I'm just being this like salesperson, right? It's like, no, you need the whole thing. It's like, well, you need the whole thing because it's not just naps.
Right.
It sometimes is just naps. Like if your baby was going down like a champion on their own, and maybe their naps are 35 minutes, I would do a nap package with you. But there is help to
Mm.
sleep. When there is help to sleep, it'll blow up everywhere. Because when we take it away someplace, there's going to be protest. And then that will probably move into the evenings as well. So I am just
Yeah.
the bearer of shitty, shitty news.
I think at the back of my head, I always knew
Yeah.
that. I always knew that reality. It's just like naps, as everyone said, and like everyone can probably agree, is like so difficult to train. Like it's just such a mess. And I try to tackle naps and sleep concurrently when we first started sleep training, but it was, oh my gosh, it was just so exhausting. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like it was harder to do it during the day versus the night. I don't know what about it, but
Oh, well, do you have a partner
yeah.
at home with you all day, or are you by yourself?
Yeah,
That's good.
no, so my husband works from home.
Good.
So I mean, but besides the point, I think it's just the fact that like in my head I'm like, okay, well, he like look back at when he was like 4 or 5 months, he took 3 naps. I was like, oh my gosh, he needs to have an hour nap each time. Like he's cutting into his nap time. Like I need to cut it. I need to go and help him sleep.
Yes.
I think that was what was getting in my head.
Yes.
So I'm so torn. I'm so torn.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a very this is such a good conversation. This is going to be like my favorite podcast. You are hitting all my greatest hits about why people need to work with someone. But I think that, okay, so then you have to remember what the information is, right? So like I'm aware that I give information, and I give information generally. My whole goal is not to stress anyone out with that information. Yeah, we are looking for about an hour nap, but in reality, like most young babies are only getting one longer nap of over an hour and then probably two shorter naps until they really figure out how to connect sleep cycles during the day. So when we think about how a baby is going to sleep, a sleep cycle is about 20 to 30 minutes during the day. If you want an hour nap, your baby has to fall asleep 2 times. So they'll fall asleep one
Right.
time, wake up, fall asleep again. and that's an hour nap. So probably if you are doing any help to sleep, the naps will always be short, unless you're lucky. I shouldn't say always. There will be babies who are like, anomalies and dreamies, and you just do whatever. Those babies exist. But if you are struggling with short naps, that's probably why. And then there's all of this, like, I'm sure you're listening to my podcast. You're on this website. I have 8 sleep charts that all tell me my baby needs to sleep 4 hours a day. They're not sleeping 4 hours a day. How am I going to do this? Okay, I will do whatever I possibly can to get this baby to sleep. Rock. Yeah. Okay, I'm amazing. Because if I do this now, my night's sleep is going to be the worst. And if my night's, it's like, oh my God, I remember being there. These are my clients. But when we are doing a training process, we prioritize temporarily, big underlined, circled, bolded, temporarily we prioritize the behavior modification over the hours of sleep, because your baby will make up those hours of sleep when they get the skill. So we prioritize skill building over sleep because that will come. It always comes. If it doesn't, there are strategies. Like, this is why working with a consultant is so important if you are struggling. And this is not like a sales push, but the difference is that, like, okay, you're going to hear of like Sally down the street sleep training her baby. It was 3 nights, bam, bam, everything's great, naps are awesome. Great. You do not need a sleep consultant. But when it gets to the point where you're like, I am freaking out about my days, because if I don't have my days, my nights are a mess. So I help during the day. And then it feels like you're in a swirly soup. It's time to get help, because this is where we can be like, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be a little bit different. Let's prioritize the skill over everything, because the skill, in my opinion, it does trump all. And I would say, if you are listening to this podcast, you do have a baby who's younger, anywhere between 4 and 6 months. By the way, none of this applies to newborns between 0 and 12 months for my listeners. It's just a shit show in the newborn phase. I'm talking 4 months plus. But if you're in the 4 months plus category, 4 to 6 months, you're going to have babies who just aren't ready at all to do this work, whose switch hasn't flipped that they can sleep on their own. And so that's another reason why a consultant is great, where they can be like, oh, look, we're trying these things. It's really not happening. We know when to throw in the towel. This is that time. And then we can come back. And it doesn't mean your baby can never sleep. It means that they just can't sleep right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you, and I agree with you on that. It just, I guess, I was afraid that like a bad nap or naps during the day is going to leak into a bad evening, and then it's just going to be this like vicious cycle of never getting it right. But I guess it's like a temporary sacrifice.
In general, that's the right advice. That's exactly right. But when you're in a training process, I hate that word training. When you're teaching your baby to sleep, it's always best to prioritize the skill over the sleep.
Is it possible though to like have the skill and use it for like the long like night sleep, but not during the nap? Like, is that possible, or like not want to?
Yeah. I mean, what I will find is that sometimes, like, you're kind of the example about why that happens. So like, if I guess it's up to the baby. I do know that there are definitely babies who are helped to sleep during the day and sleep great independently overnight. That generally just has a shelf life. So it's like, baby will be like, at some point, they'll be like, oh, I want that all night. That's a great thing. So what you're doing during the day, I would like that all night. And I know I didn't want to do that before, but I'm different now, and that's what I want.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm worried about is like, sometimes he's a great sleeper at night, And during the days, like we don't mind, when I take the morning shift for the nap, and then my husband takes the afternoon. We're like, oh, it's fine, like it's working. But I'm so afraid that one day he's a smart cookie, it's gonna like be a little light switch. It was like, and then all of a sudden he's gonna be like, nope, like you're gonna come sleep here with me. Like, that's what I'm afraid of.
You also have to remember the whole reason why you wrote in is that his night sleep isn't so great and it's pretty inconsistent.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I'm talking about like the some nights that, the 1-2 nights during the week that is good. And I'm like,
we're here. Exactly.
And I'm like, ah.
Well, look, I say this all the time when I'm talking to people. The easy answer is let's take that help to sleep away, and then everything will be beautiful. You will be able to put your baby down for a nap and leave. You will be able to sleep through the night. For the most part, babies aren't robots. You're going to have your 3 or 4 days every time something new happens. But yeah, for sure. The great thing is part of what I worry about in this podcast is I get on the call with the client. I'm like, I don't know how to help you right now. Everything looks really good. Here's some very minor strategies, but there are some things that you can improve on if you want to. Yeah. And if you don't want to, take this information and just let it go.
Yeah, no, I do want to, and it'd be so good to have some like that during the morning naps I take with Noah to like actually do something with my time, whether that's sitting on the couch and binge watching Netflix or, things I just can't get, done when I'm, in the bedroom with him. So it's so daunting. I'm like, I know it. I just can't start it.
And, this is sort of like naps suck so much. This is why when we are working with our clients, we're available all day via text message because they're so awful. And so people will say to us like, oh, why don't you have nighttime text messaging? And we do night 1 of your program. And then after that, it's very likely your nights are going to be fine. It's the days that will make you insane.
Oh, wow.
So you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Well, YJ, thank you so much. I hope it was helpful for you. I know it's going to be super helpful for so many. This is the call that I have almost every day. So this is a very, very, very helpful call to so many moms. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
Such a pleasure.
See you later, everybody. Thank you for coming to another edition of the Slumber Prodigy podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment. Is this you? It's probably you. If you're listening, like, subscribe, and review. And as always, you can book a 15-minute call, and I can help do this with you on my website, either with myself or any one of my amazing team members. And that's at www.babysbestsleep.com/15mins. Until next time, everybody, sleep well.